Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host, Bill Stierle. And so we've got, something really, I think, a very good topic to talk about today that we were inspired to talk about because of a YouTube video that we're going to have in the blog post that you can all check out about a talk someone named Jonathan Haidt gave called Two Incompatible Values at American Universities. And there's a lot of information about who Jonathan is, and that there's a bio in the YouTube video, and we have all that for you on the blog post. But really, he's got he published this video before Trump was elected. I think it's important to say that this was not a new concept or a new idea just because Trump came to be in November 2016. This video was published a month before that, and really talks about the incompatible values that as this thing we've talked about in the past, Bill, about a power over situation that I think we're all very much living today. And
correct, yeah.
It's the opposite of cooperation and collaboration, which is what I think many people think we need in order to get through. So that's all I'll do to set it up, Bill. But help take us through what this is really all about.
Well, I appreciate, Tom, and setting the foundation for how do we get our economy to work in a more collaborative and cooperative way. There is the competition piece that happens in sports. One team plays by a set of rules, both teams play by a set of rules, and through that process, it's the skill and mastery and the wits and the intelligence of the coach and the players, and in order to win the contest. Once we move away from the game setting and we moved into a functional, stable, healthy society, there is a sense I want to work hard against a product or service that's in competition with me, or is looking for, am I going to sell this software program, and then there's another software program that's similar to my software program, and I've got to get as much market share as I can, and then this other product is going to work hard, and they're going to try to get as much market share as they can. There is a competition element between those different companies and those different products. You and I have sat in various different chairs, and some chairs are more comfortable and some chairs are not as comfortable. Some chairs cost a little bit more and some chairs cost a little bit less. And it doesn't mean that you buy the expensive chair that it's going to give you the same level of value as the cheaper chair does necessarily. Although it might last longer, it might have better parts. It doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't a burn rate for that product or service. So with that as a general premise, is that we as a society struggle with the idea that capitalism and socialism are competing with each other. They are not. They're not supposed to compete with each other. One is built for stability, and the other one is built for growth and affluence. I don't think we've ever really talked about that, is that the socialism part of it is built for stability. The capitalism part is built for, growth, diversity, affluence. Well, one of the things that I really liked about Jonathan's video is that he was kind of demonstrating how the universities are kind of getting themselves in a pickle because they're promoting truth. They're trying to get the best scholarship or the best thinking about that subject matter or whatever. But nowadays, as soon as somebody brings up a dissenting message about truth, people make the whole thing as if the whole thing is not true, rather than just having a safe, honest discussion about how to find truth from different perspectives. There is no rigor or resilience or safety in talking about dissension. Safety in talking about something that's a belief bias and calling the person out on it. Interesting bias, but gosh, it's not fully the truth what you're saying there. And people are going to prefer that bias, but that's not fully the truth. So in communication, Tom, we really look to try to find what is the motive of us as a human being, but also what is the motive for this industry vertical. What is the value that most drives something? So if I say the medical system, what do you think might be one or two or three values that the medical system could stand for at the top of their list?
Could stand for or should
Yeah,
stand
or
for?
should stand for. Either one.
Yeah.
Should stand for is actually better. Or what would they say they mostly stand for?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think they'll I think they'll stand for, healing and obviously health and providing care, but we see all the time how much they also really at the corporate level stand for profit, don't
Boy,
they?
you're kind of making my day a little bit here, because that's what one of the things that Jonathan points out in his thing is that the motive from a business standpoint, if you go to the business school versus you go to the medical school, in the business school, it's, hey, how do you generate profit and or how do you generate value with the thing that you're offering to the environment? When capitalism starts getting too much food or feeding because it grows to the place of affluence, it starts influencing these other different societal challenges or issues. So you could see that, and Jonathan kind of points this out. He's going like, if profit and value, a two very important business attributes, are inserted and put in front of health, healing, nurturing, caring, that system doesn't do as well, because it's the health and the healing and the nurturing, caring are put secondarily to what the other system, the business system, is inserted into it.
Well, and just to illustrate this point, we have an example in our current, news in our world here in the United States. It just came out again about this proposed settlement between Purdue Pharmaceuticals and all the states over
Wow.
the OxyContin,
Oh boy.
drug, and there's a proposed civil settlement where the family who owned Purdue Pharmaceuticals, who enriched themselves to the point of $10 billion over recent years due to these drugs, have proposed a $225 million settlement in the, I guess it's the bankruptcy court with the company going bankrupt.
Wow.
Proposed 225 million. And there's a lot of people unhappy with that, because especially to talk about this conflict, there's evidence that doctors were paid money directly to
Wow.
prescribe OxyContin. And there are a lot of people whose lives were very negatively impacted, either because of addiction, and there are people that have died because of this addiction. So people have lost their lives. So this profit motive was definitely not in alignment with health, healing, caring, nurturing of people that needed medical help.
Very, very important, honest, scary, honest discussion to say, what's the value? If you put the word value ahead of, if you put the word profit ahead of the word value, you're not valuing life. What you're doing is you're valuing revenue, which is, and it's not, I'm not making revenue bad. I'm just saying the values or whatever that institution or business vertical or sector needs to be at the primary front of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with revenue and profit. I mean, it makes the world go round, and we all need that in our economy. There's nothing wrong with making a fair profit for providing a product or service, whatever it is. But what's tricky is when it comes at the expense of something else, right? Of one of these values. Does that sound right,
Yes,
Bill? Is that like what
that's
Jonathan's talking about?
that's what Jonathan is talking about. So they're infusing, like, whether it's business and in trying to push into medical, or medical actually trying to influence business, you can see where it goes sideways really quick. Now, you mentioned the justice system, which the legal system, which their primary motive or need that they're looking to stand for is justice. Well, I don't know about you, but if one group gets $5 billion or whatever the number was, I can't, you said it a moment ago.
The family the family has been enriched to the tune of $10 billion is the number that's widely reported.
10 billion.
Yeah.
10 billion. So now the legal justice system says, well, how about 250 million? People feel furious that, because that doesn't look like justice, and it most certainly doesn't look like fairness. But guess what? The profit and the value motive inside the capitalist system is now dictating that, going like, I'm sorry, the justice system is awarding this, and all they're doing is just trying to get a number less than 1 billion because they're still sitting with $9 other billion.
Right.
Right. So there's this very, very unsettling and tenuous experience of our society going like, we need to proportionalize our values and balance our values better. And that's why this is a communication show, is that even though you and I are presenting it in a very judgmental way at the current moment, the compassion and empathy that goes with this is that, I feel wonderful about my business generating value. And there is a profit motive that goes with that. There is a revenue generation that leads to, if I do my entrepreneurial job, there is going to be jobs that I provide for other people. There are going to be taxes that I pay. There's going to be that. And I'm building the value and the profit and the numbers and making those work, not at the expense of my customers.
Right. Well, and that's the unfortunate thing. In some of these examples, it's directly at the expense of the customers,
Right.
isn't it?
Right. And at the expense of life, and the expense of family, at the expense of stability in society. Hey, you want to traumatize a family? Sure. Kill the oldest son with an overdose of Oxycontin. That whole family is is psychologically disturbed, and it destabilizes the nation moving forward. It's not a natural death. It is basically one that they knew was coming, and it was caused, and there was a profit motive behind it. I just get, you see, all my own, energy gets riled up because my own needs are getting activated by it, and that means my body's working perfectly. It's not I'm ranting. I'm just talking like, listen, I'm kind of feeling really kind of sad and disheartened about how to get justice to take place, how to really do truth in a way that's proportional, that has a perspective to it. And that makes this rant, as people could call it that way, they're not talking about this in a holistic sense. They, anybody that wants to argue or push back in my direction are going to try to pick one of those other value sets and then ram that into the discussion, saying, no, it's more, that's what they did it legally. Well, they did it legally, but it wasn't moral or ethically. And you will notice that the law sits at one level and ethics and integrity sit at another level. No one gets prosecuted for an ethics or integrity breach.
Well, didn't they used to, Bill? I mean, I understand in the literal sense, they don't
Correct.
get prosecuted for that, right? But how many
Right.
times have we had, a senator be forced to resign by their party because of an ethical breach or a moral breach, right?
Correct. There was a punishment, but now in this modern day, the punishment is not in a place of equitable. It doesn't have a diversity and piece to it, doesn't have inclusion, and those marketplaces that are taking advantage of how can I get profit and promote value even though it's not valuable, and because this consumer doesn't have any other place to go, then you got all kinds of problems from a societal standpoint, and to make it stable. Let me do another example. So let's say we have a grocery store, and the grocery store chain, and this says we're going to put stores throughout different strategic locations in different cities. So Whole Foods or wherever says, okay, we charge a higher price for things, so we're going to put ourselves in zip codes of those higher price people, because the people around will pay the higher price because they can't go or don't want to go any other place. Well, also the inverse takes place. Here is a low value grocery store. Nobody is none of the other competitors are going to go into a lower income neighborhood. So they drop their grocery store there and charge as much or even more money than the high price store, because the people can't go anywhere, and they're going to get a lower value. You see, my need for justice isn't really met, and
I see it, yeah.
equality is starting to run a little bit. My social justice energy is starting to bring up, and I'm going to get aggravated. My body's working perfectly. It's in my voice, and you're agitating in your chair. For those of you who are listening, we're just agitated all over this place because we're literally taking this video and bantering these 4-5 different points of view: education, business, medical, social justice. We're bantering them back and forth against each other and just working ourselves up. Oh man, it's not, but at least we're being honest. At least we're doing a little scary honesty of, we can see the good reason why they're doing it, and because when we look at trying to create a stable society, we have to start thinking more in an inclusionary way. We have to be more, and we need to step more into being mindful of how we can make the US of A, one nation under God, indivisible. We have to put some pressure on the word indivisible, which causes we need to create all kinds of lines of equity, and lines of inclusion, so that one part or one group of people in the nation isn't dragging behind 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 years behind. It doesn't, it can't do it. We got to, like, kind of grow up a little bit as a nation, and can't say, no, 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 I'm taking my marbles and going home. It's not a healthy conversation. So I know I know I'm monologuing here, but you can see that there is a tension between all of these different values that were, and the different needs that cause the emotion.
And there is a tension, and I think one of the things that we've seen happen in the 4 years since this Jonathan Haidt video was published is that
Right.
this kind of polarization, this disconnect, but lack of cooperation and collaboration has just gotten worse. It's gotten more
Right.
distinct. Everybody talks about how America right now is so polarized, and usually that's talked about in a political sense of the right versus the left.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is really just, you know, more so than the cause is a symptom, right?
Right.
Of all of this that you're talking about and that Jonathan Haidt talked about, is it not?
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's a notice. And then what happens is emotionally, that there's not emotional, there's not emotionally safe or financially safe to step up and speak out, with different people. Even in the PR business, it's like, oh my gosh, this a person, they put a post on Twitter or whatever, and they say Black Lives Matter, I'm with you, and then all of a sudden there's all of this direct that's coming in their direction, and the sponsor doesn't want to be, fund that person. They pull their funding because they don't want to, send that. It's like, instead of the sponsor going like, I kind of stand with that too, and I'm not going to deal with I'm going to fight the backlash, and I'm going to step up into it,
Which is kind of a
and
bit of what Nike did when you think about it. Nike,
right,
who hired Colin Kaepernick as
right,
a spokesperson, or at least a symbol that
right,
they align with, took a
right.
position on that, didn't they?
They did take a position on it, and I was, I don't know what the financial cost was, that, or the financial gain it was of that. The idea is that if we stand on the side of truth, we're going to get a financial gain. Regrettably, on our current society, you stand up and you stand for a value called inclusion or equanimity or something like that, and you stand up and you make a statement. It just you're on the pedestal, and it's easier for social media to shoot at you, and they do. And all of a sudden, this person's voice is giving the same credit as this other person's voice, and this person's standing on an integrity and in a value, and this other person's saying, sorry, I am going to cut you out. I'm gonna erase you. I'm gonna, take away your income because you're expressing that point of view. And it's not to say things don't happen on the right and don't happen on the left, but there's very, and this is why this is a communication show, there's very little skill out there to hold the space for both. And that's what I, propose in my narratives, is hold the space for both. You can say, that something about a subject, and but it's not in the same alignment as somebody that's been studying 25 years on that subject and written 3 books on that subject. You don't get the same level of value because the other person has did something. Now, if in the book they're full of it, then you question them on, listen, you said this thing in your book, and I kind of disagree with this. How did you come to that? And if that professor or that author is really authentic, they'll fall on the sword. They'll say, you know what? When I wrote the book 5 years ago, that was a point of view that I was holding, and my bias and my influence was telling me this. But you know what? 5 years later, I am on your side with that. And I can't fix that thing, that point of view that I had back then, but I have grown and changed and developed since that moment. And that's called the moment of truth, scary honesty, equanimity, justice, because you pointed out the mistake, justice because I'm a human being and I'm doing that. It's that that's where our dialogue needs to return to, so it becomes healthy, because it's not healthy right now.
No, it's not.
It's not healthy. No, it is not. Yeah, that's the thing that we need to really kind of step into and step at, so that we can really do that purchasing truth tour of reconciliation and restoration that needs to take place at some time. It doesn't, I mean, I'm going to shrug my shoulders and say, whoever gets elected, you still need restoration work in this nation.
My concern is, depending on who gets elected, we're either going to have some healing and restoration in the short term, or we're going to have another 4 years of carnage before there is healing and restoration.
Yeah. I'm wondering is that, is there going to be enough courage that a university or a business picks a value and starts fighting for not just their value, business fighting for profit or their things, health fighting, medicine fighting for health, the legal system start restoring justice that has been taken away in certain cases. The education started to fighting for truth and going like, hey, a student complained about this professor. We need a reconciliation for what that professor said or did. We're getting the student back in, we're getting anybody that's concerned, and this is how we're handling the restoration. See, that's really what good PR is going like, you step into it. Hey, you have a complaint? Yeah, you're complaining about a professor? Awesome. We're going to take the parties that are concerned. You're going to bring up things. This is what it is. This is how this person got affected. And we're going to increase a safe dialogue between those different parties that are oppositional or appear to be oppositional. And then we got a society on the mend. But right now, cooperation and collaboration are sitting in the back end, and we kind of have
they
this.
really are, aren't they, Bill? I mean, we
Yeah.
just saw we've been seeing the perfect case study of lack of collaboration and cooperation in the Senate hearings regarding Amy Coney Barrett. And
Right.
not to get too, specific political in this episode, but I mean, it's a good example, because here you have the Republicans saying, hey, we have the power to do this and we're gonna do it. We're gonna have these hearings and we're gonna have a vote on her, even though we said 4 years ago we shouldn't have a vote on a nominee in an election year. And they did it. And what happened then, as we're recording this today, there was a vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee where all of the Democrats on the committee boycotted the vote. They put up large, full poster size images of people that they feel are going to be hurt by this justice, people that, have issues this justice probably will decide against. And they weren't there to vote. Only the Republicans were there to vote. And it's very much what Jonathan Haidt was talking about here, wasn't it? That you've got these completely different perspectives and agendas and actions being taken, and there is no talking between these opposing sides. There is no collaboration, there is no discussion or
Too
cooperation.
dangerous. Too dangerous to talk to, dangerous to speak up. If you think about this a little bit, even if we go back to Clarence Thomas, I mean, Clarence Thomas has been on, and has voted conservatively for all the years that he's been on, the bench with the rest of his colleagues. And um, and why hasn't he spoken up? Why hasn't he took a stand on certain things? All he's doing is voting, and then not really fully writing a dissension, not really, putting there, is because it's been very hard to stand up on both the right and the left to actually have a healthy dialogue, because you have to, in order to have a healthy dialogue, you've got to, as a human being, check your biases and check your beliefs and really question them in reference to justice, in reference to um, what is going to be the impact of this decision. I mean, abortion, Roe v. Wade, the women's right to choose. That's what a thoughtful decision and a thoughtful writing about the good reason why the court voted to say, we got to do this because this is not good for society to have the government meddling in the decision of a woman by making it, illegal and not available in these states. We can't have this psychological and physiological carnage take place between with an unwanted pregnancy. We can't do that. And nobody likes abortion, just to let everybody know, but at the same time, you know, one of the highest Republican values are government, stay out of our choices. Well, except for abortion. I mean, it's not congruent um, because of it, because there's a lot of votes there. I mean, that's the primary reason. There's a lot of votes, and but nobody likes it. Nobody likes that it's a part of the difficult decision that a woman that is choosing to make. See, notice I'm talking between all of these different. I just did a little legal piece, and then I did a little social justice piece, and then I just did a little medical piece, and then there's what are we going to pay for? What's the value to society about making a safe place medically for women to, specifically in rape and incest, but also is economically, I can't afford this child, and I'm just creating, or I'm having the experience of poverty, and the system doesn't want to help me with the poverty part. So I got to protect myself from the poverty part because I can't afford to do this. Crazy, right?
Very complex issues, for
Very
sure.
complex issues. Tom, when you think about even you making decisions for your business, making decisions for your family, you get pinned between different values at different times. You got to pick a financially fiscal choice, or you have to figure an integrity choice, or you have to pick a truth and trust choice. And your family doesn't like all your choices, do they?
No, they don't. And
No.
it's difficult a lot of times to square the financial choice with the um the choice of from your heart, right?
Right, right. And if the financial choice is, do I buy medicine or do I buy food?
Mm,
You
very
see,
difficult
just
place to be.
all of a sudden, I went right to the point. Right? Do I um, do I get the medicine I need, or do I steal the medicine I need from a drugstore? You see, all of a sudden now I got justice and medicine and money fighting against each other. Now if I stick a social justice piece in there, it gets worse.
Well, but what about your doctor prescribed Oxycontin, you become addicted to it, and you either steal that drug because you can't get more prescriptions, or you can't afford to buy it, or you end up, because of becoming addicted to that, commit some crime in order to feed the addiction. You get put in jail
Right.
for stealing in order to feed the addiction, but
Right.
the people that write the prescription are sitting on the beach and going on vacations and
Wow.
getting paid more by the pharmaceutical company. I mean, it's very complex stuff.
I remember a circle. They filmed a circle of an addiction group, and they were talking about they all their initial entry was OxyContin to get into then they were all OxyContin piece, and then the question was is um, what was the drug of choice after? How many of you are using heroin at this time? All 12 people raised their hand.
Because it's cheap, right?
Because it was less expensive, and it was the thing that was giving a similar level of relief that the Oxycontin was giving. And the illegal drug trade between Georgia and Florida has been well documented, of people running OxyContin back and forth across state lines just to feed the habits of different groups of people. And it's so unsettling to just do some scary honesty. And I am not going to stick it on the addict, because I'm somebody that has provided support to help people get off that stuff. It's not easy to do because of the physiological response that those medicines have on the body, and the grip of the cellular grip that it has on that person. This is something it has nothing to do with a weak-minded person. It has to do with your cells adjusted to a medicine that was so much of a draw. It was very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So
yeah
go ahead. Yeah.
Well, very scary.
And
I mean, I remember
scary.
having my own surgery in 2007 and being prescribed some very strong painkillers for after the surgery, which I really needed for a period of time. And I remember weaning myself off of them, and that was not easy. And it wasn't Oxycontin, but I mean, there are other powerful drugs.
Yes.
I could see, wow. I mean, I don't know. I may not be predisposed personally to addiction or have whatever genetic conditions make you more susceptible, I suspect, but scared the heck out of me and my wife a little bit. And I'm like, okay, we're going to stop this right now. And fortunately I could, but I can really see how easy it is for people to say, well, it's prescribed by my doctor, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then they're down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's very, very challenging. I think, and I really appreciate the video that we're exploring, and how these different values banter across each other, because when we get into a discussion about purchasing truth, you can see how truth gets influenced when each one of these different, academic, value sets, actually, they try to cloud the issue inside that various different marketplace or that different vertical that has a value. The legal system is supposed to be about justice. The social justice system is supposed to be about equality, whether it's racial or other kinds of social justice. I mean, health is supposed to run medicine, not profits, but and the insurance company are in the middle of that. So very, very challenging stuff. So the next time, Tom, that we're together, we need to kind of continue to peel back about how to have a healthy dialogue with these different values, and not shy away from it and say winner takes all, or whoever has the most profit wins, or whoever raises the most money and is given the bigger platform gets to run the country. It's not, we can't do it. Oh, how about money inserted or business inserted into politics. That's another thing that,
that's
that we
a
can do
whole
that.
huge thing.
That's
Sure,
a whole
we
thing.
could. Yep.
So it's really important for us to continue the dialogue to get better communication so our nation can get back to the restoration and the healing it needs.
Sounds good, Bill. I look forward to that.
More to come. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.